Small. Wow, tiny.
You are currently listening to Tiny Table,
where we explore TTRPGs you might not have heard of.
Whether big or small, we hope to cover them all.
Because we know that great things can come in tiny packages.
Mothership has died. And you probably have too. Put on that hazard suit, pump yourself up with another stim pack, and get ready to work. As we get ready to dissect this alien out of your body and also this post-mortem.
Hey. This game fucking rules.
I am shocked. I went into this excited, doing more sci-fi is kind of outside the realms that we normally tackle here at Tiny Table, but a lot of the systems on the surface, on the face of it, were very reminiscent of Call of Cthulhu, another horror genre with things beyond the imagination using a D100 system. And so part of me is like, ooh, I don't know, but this game hooked me so seamlessly and easily. I was surprised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just going to give a forewarning to the listeners because I'm going to be a real chatterbox this episode. Because unlike with a lot of these, we're running off of PDFs. And first initial shout out, the PDF for the player's survival guide, which is the only of the books of Mothership that you need to run the game, is literally free on their website. Mm-hmm. So while we were all referencing the free PDF, I've been poring over the 5 books that come included with the standard box set for this game. And I think this is maybe some of the best instructional design I have ever seen in any RPG, period. I'm like flabbergasted, it's so good. So there'll be some bits later on where I am just going gaga over the DM support for this thing.
Yeah, you said that this game had a bit of a zeitgeist, or it blew up at some point, right? Like a few years ago?
Yeah, this has been pretty big. And anyone who knows about Tiny Table, our show, will almost certainly have seen some review, some post, some promotion for this game. This to me very much was the sci-fi equivalent of Merkborg in being a kind of OSR adjacent, really big thing that blew up, right? Like this is one of the big games that everyone talks about in the OSR indie sphere. I'd call it OSR adjacent. It's it's sci-fi, it's not fantasy, but it has a lot of kinship of philosophy of design. And you got folks like Questing Beast talking about Mothership. So this game very much kind of went over with the indie plus crowd. And going in, I was a little concerned. I'm like, oh, is this gonna be like Merkborg, where Merkborg has a lot of sizzle, right? It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous book. But if I look at it literally as a game, I'm like, okay, there's not a ton here on a mechanics level that's like, oh, I'm super compelled. It's more they've just got a profundity of really good tables, and the presentation is like 11 out of 10. Yeah. This one, the presentation is fantastic, but the mechanics and the design are like effortlessly clean and elegantly designed in a way I was really floored by.
Yeah, I found making a character in this game was super easy, really intuitive. I liked the little skill tree of practiced, expert, mastered, or whatever the breakdown is there for the different tiers, and how you get choices depending on what class or occupation you want to work with. You can be like, oh, 2 extra train skills or 1 extra expert skill, or whatever the breakdown is there. The slim flexibility, but with the very core identities of each class, made it really engaging to interact with.
Not to mention, it's all the easier on their companion app, which is available online. It'll allow you to roll up a character, and select all of their fields. You can roll on the app itself, and then it'll auto add or tell you if you've succeeded or failed. I went out of my way to interact with their companion app and all of their supplemental materials online, such as a series of informational videos on how to play, and it is all extremely comprehensive, like lovingly crafted. The people who made Mothership want you to play Mothership, and they want it to make it seamless as possible. I highly recommend the companion app. It's
Definitely.
free.
It's free.
There's a couple of things that are like, you can buy extra, I don't know, like games or scenario specific things or whatever, customizable multiple character sheets, but like the base app is free and it's really, really awesome. And speaking of making it easy, as Julian mentioned earlier, the way this game teaches you in its rulebook is excellent. Like, teaches you not just how to play Mothership, but how to play TRPGs in general. There's literally a page called How to Be a Great Player.
That was my favorite page, I think, in the rules. It was very nice because it tells you like what to focus on and what to hone in on, and when you're making a character. And I feel like not a lot of games are like, hey, player, this is how you are good. I feel like a lot of systems are like, GM, this is how you can run like a fun game. And it felt like it was evening the playing field almost.
Yeah, like there's often a kind of imbalance there where players are given mechanical tools to play with, if we're talking like maybe a very robust set of options for character creation, but they won't be given, advice on procedure of play.
Yes, procedure of play is huge.
And it's even things that once you're deep into playing RPGs, running RPGs, some of these things can feel a little easy to take for granted. But even like, I think this table felt kind of a refreshed benefit, a little like a clarity of approach in having even just simple things like a bullet point saying you should ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, doing like the little like breakdowns and going through the examples of like how they suggest or lay out play made me go into playing Mothership with a different mindset.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm like, the four of us are experienced enough at TRPGs that we don't really need to freshen up on how to be a good player, how to be a good GM, but I was surprised by how helpful I actually found its guidelines.
A thing I really like in that particularity is that folks go back and forth on this. The notion in the OSR game sphere that if you've made it to a point where you're in a combat, you're losing, right? Like you've played poorly because you've wound up in a combat. Like combat almost being an extrapolated, expanded lose condition, right?
Yeah.
And there are OSR games that lean in really hard to that. There are OSR games that say, no, but you should be tactical. And, this is a kind of a shorthand that gets orbited in the scene a lot, to my mind. And I think that this game does a very good job of clarifying exactly where it lands in that setup. And it goes beyond just a combat scenario. It says, if you've gotten to the point where you have to roll, it's because things are going wrong or scary or dramatic or bad. Like it says, you should ask a lot of questions. The more information you have, the less likely you'll have to make risky rolls like stat checks or saves. Spoiler alert, that's all rolls. The game is telling you, hey, your goal should be to never roll the dice, because once it's a die roll, it's no longer up to your agency, it's now up to chance.
Yeah, this is one of the systems that I think I appreciated the most in Mothership, where it explicitly lays out like, hey, if you have the knowledge, the reasonable tools, and the reasonable time, or I think it just explicitly asks for 2 out of the 3 things, it probably doesn't need to be a roll. And I remember going in, when we were getting ready to play, I was really nervous because it's like every time you fail a roll, that's a stress. And in the one shot, it's every time you fail a roll, that's like 1d5 stress.
Yep.
And this isn't a thing where it's like your stress is going up to like 100, your stress is going up to 20. So I'm like, that's you have the potential to fail 4 rolls and be maxed out on stress instantly. That was terrifying because I'm so used to how things like Dungeons and Dragons and other systems often tackle their dice system, where a lot of games want you to roll a lot. You know,
Rolling represents agency, right?
Yeah.
Wrong-o. Huge wrong-o. As a person who rolling is my enemy, because for these kinds of narrative games, I want to have maximum agency as a character. I want to do a cool thing. And then most of the time, the dice is like, nuh-uh, you don't get to do a cool thing, even though you were tactical and smart and aware of your situation and making the most of your resources. You fail anyway, because I'm a stupid rock. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, Mothership...
Talk that shit.
Mothership is great, and it's helpful also that the book, as it's teaching you, gives you tools on how to make the most out of your own narrative agency. Part of their how to be a great player is like, characters die, play smart, make the most of your time. Violence is punishing. The odds are stacked against you. Make difficult choices. Pay attention. These are great guidelines to help shape how you're going to choose to be a narrative agent in the world. And like, I just think it gives you a lot of resources. Just going into it thinking, I need to ask as many questions as possible and orchestrate scenarios in ways that lead me to not rolling and just succeeding, really plugs you into the game and the world, and it just makes you a better player, and it makes Mothership a better game.
Yeah, like, and then when you get to the point where you are in like an encounter with the creature, right? You're in turn order, and now like it's rolls. You're making rolls every turn. The fact that when you were safe, you had this ability to slow down, to ask questions, to really think through your approach, and thereby delay or completely remove die rolls. It makes the fact that, by the time you're in a fight, there are rolls happening on everybody's turn is terrifying. Like,
oh yeah,
it's a mechanical representation of like the way that you see the frenetic like shot composition in a horror movie pick up once the big bad arrives on screen, where like all of a sudden anything could happen, and anything could happen, and it really feels like you're fighting fate itself, because you are, like, you literally are. The random number generator is on the table more consistently now, and you don't have the privacy and the security and the time to do things in a way you can be certain about anymore.
Yeah, especially because even your best stats are still going to give you, like, roughly, what, a 50-50 shot at succeeding if you're lucky?
Yeah, and that's like a good stat.
And that's a good stat. Like, that's crazy. That, unless you're, like, I think, what, you played the robot, which starts with, like, a 70 or an 80 in intelligence or something, or, like, it has, like, an 80 fear save or something, like, has one exceptional stat, but I think everything else is, like, kind of mediocre, right?
Yeah, so you get plus 20 to your intelligence, but I think I immediately nuked that a bit.
You put minus 10 into it instantly.
Listen, for the bit. And then, like, my fear save is, like, something crazy, but I learned quickly that the default state of Mothership is failure, and to just embrace that.
Yeah.
Which is why at one point I chose to just give in and be like, Mur has a panic attack. And also, like, you don't get that many skills, your stats are pretty low. So it does make rolling scary, but it also makes succeeding really exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Very elegant system too, like, just as a brief thing. The fact that rolling doubles on your numbers on the D100 makes whatever you've gotten a critical version of that, but it's still cool. Like under is success, over is failure. Very elegant, right? Instant recognition of a high impact thing, and it means that crits are actually happening pretty frequently for a D100 system, when normally that's quite rare.
Yeah, like what, like 1 in 10?
1 in 10.
Yeah, it's pretty seamless, but it is one of those interesting things where, like you said, you are fighting fate, and it is oftentimes stacked against you with how the numbers and the math is just set up. But because of that, it does lead you to want to engage with the world and with the narrative and with your surroundings way more than I feel most other TRPGs we've played encourage. I remember we were going through, and I think I've shortened it slightly in the fully edited version, but there was like a full, like, maybe 30 minutes where we're just going through a list of names of soldiers that worked at the base and their positions and their rankings. And I remember being in there, like, taking notes because I was so wrapped by, like, this like
looking at the
Excel
call sheet.
spreadsheet. Yeah. I'm like,
Call
that's
sheet.
crazy. Probably the most boring thing to listen to. I think I shortened it for audience like retention, but like in the moment, I remember being like, any of this could be like vital. Like even just knowing a person's name and maybe having like a good reputation with them, or any like leg up we can get is so drastically important. So that way those dice don't have to come on the table. It's really interesting.
Exactly. I want to highlight real quick one little die mechanic that we did not interface with, which I think is a very cute piece of design and very fitting for the genre we're emulating, which is the death save. So if you hit a point where you have maxed out your wounds, you're making a death save. When you die, quote unquote die, the warden makes a death save by taking a single D10, putting it in a cup, shaking the cup, and then putting it on the table in front of you, covered. And then no one, not the GM, not the dying character, not anybody else, gets to know what's under that cup until another character spends a turn checking for vitals. And then you lift it up and see the table of results, and there's a 1 in 10 chance that they lived, they're just unconscious. There's a 20% chance that they're unconscious, but they're dying. They only have a couple rounds left. There's another 20% chance that they're comatose and are going to need serious medical help, and then there's a 50% chance they're fucking dead. But you're sitting there going, maybe, just maybe, are they alive? Could they possibly be alive? Check their vitals.
I like that much better than D&D.
Right.
I know a lot of tables have almost homebrewed to be like only the player and the GM will know how much they failed, because otherwise, you know, it's like, you succeeded? Okay, I can fireball this turn. Like,
Yes,
you
right.
probably won't get hit.
The curse of perfect information.
Yeah, the cup thing is really great. Let's talk a little bit more about combat, because I think that's, you know, we're talking about all the like, oh, let's avoid, you know, the rolls. This game lets you avoid rolls, but when the rolls come into play, things like the death thing, the combat thing is great. I love the ranges, right? The defining range. Like there are no like noodly rules about like you're 10 feet away, you're 20 feet away. You have close range. It can get to you. Long range, you can shoot it. Extreme range, you can hear them scream. Like, just so
That's great.
evocative. Like, it's really great. The language of the book is really great at capturing both the, like, immersive quality and also the impact that you can imagine yourself having. It even has a little sidebar that's like being effective in a fight, or like what can I do? It like you don't have an action or a bonus action. You can it's very like
You can move and do something.
yeah, think of the situation like a real life scenario. You can attack something, you can bandage something, you can move again. Like it gives you this whole list of like options.
Yeah, I find that that's something that I kind of have enjoyed more, is when like the ranges are less like metric and granular and defined by specific like how many feet or spaces or cubes or whatever, because that was the thing that was used in Daggerheart as well, is they do all of their ranges like very close, far, very far. And for the type of storytelling that we often like to do, especially because like we're not here recording with like a giant setup of miniatures and plastic and all this different stuff, that allows for an ease of flow during gameplay that I really like. The language is just much more intuitive, because like that's how we as humans think. You know, we're not geomappers. We're not like trying to gauge distance. I'm not like here being like, oh, I'm exactly 6 feet away from Julian on the table. I'm like, Julian's close, but Neil and Holly are very close, you know, like within arm's reach. So it just creates a level of intuitive play when you're actually there in the moment, which I think is good, especially because you're probably freaking out about, you know, the fact that you're there in the fight in the first place. So not having to be bogged down by numbers and taking away from the tension is very elegant design.
Yup.
The way the armor works reminds me a lot of Merkborg's shields, where you gotta get this one chance to just really save yourself from one very impactful attack, where like anything that does damage equal to or less than the armor does nothing. Anything that goes over obliterates the armor, but it is still minus the armor points damage. And spoiler alert, unless you invest in some crazy armor, the first hit you take from anything that's going to be a real threat is going to destroy your armor. Like, it's a great piece of really mean game design where mathematically, like, what it truly is minus X damage on the first hit you take in almost every circumstance. But you get to have that feeling where you feel like terrified and overpowered and outgunned because you're going in thinking, yeah, I've got this armor, like I'm completely immune to a bunch of damage, and then it's gone in the first hit and you go, fuck, oh fuck, this thing is so scary.
Yeah, talk about naked and afraid.
Right?
I love that show. Speaking of being naked and afraid and being subject to the elements, also another thing that's really cool about it is there's the whole survival tab, talking about atmosphere, right? Toxic atmosphere, corrosive atmosphere, radioactive atmosphere. Like, we only played this game as a one-shot, but Mothership gives a lot of care and attention to long-term impact, or like long game, right? About like recovering from illness and injury is actually quite difficult in this game. You can rack up a lot of pain, and you know, they've got some like there's like med pods, but like it's expensive. So, you know, it's got like this great system of balances, which is cool because they kind of know you're gonna die pretty quickly, and they make it very clear that you will die very likely. It's cool that even knowing that, they're willing to like have a very detailed and loving system of how to consider long-term play.
Julian, what would you have done if we did get the car and started just going out into the great wilds?
Probably would have called the episode there, at least so I could take a little break, because to pull back the curtain a little bit, we were running out of the included scenario from Mothership titled Another Bug Hunt. Another Bug Hunt is a series of 4 scenarios, 3 of which are scenarios for locations, the last of which is kind of a big climactic finale that can feasibly cover any or even all of those locations, depending on where the narrative has gone thus far. We were doing the first scenario titled Distress Signals, which is in the nice kind of tiny Greta base. The subsequent scenarios cover the much more expansive subsequent areas of the map and go way more in depth. They're very elegantly designed where you can run these one into the next, into the next, into the next, or one, like go from 1 to 3 or go from 1 straight to 4. Like, they all can interlink and each one will deliver more information to the group and more scares and more frights and all that good stuff. So if you had taken the car and gone on, that would have been like going into another scenario. So I probably would have called a little break, read into that scenario a little bit, and figured out a way to, for sake of the podcast, give some sort of fun, short, climactic thing you could do there, so this didn't spill out into like a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th episode.
Yeah.
Because, spoiler alert, the Greta base scenario is by far and away the smallest one and is like perfectly sized for, you know, a one-shot adventure. The other thing I could have done is I could have, like, if I had been running that outside of the context of Tiny Table, I would have said, alrighty, and that's where we'll join next time, and I would have, you know, gone into scenario 2 or scenario 3 based on where you went. On the topic of that, I do want to really highlight an element I love, because, Neo, you were discussing that the game is excellent for long-term play. It has great systems for downtime, here called shore leave, which is, you know, if your person survives, what do they get up to in the months or years in between catastrophic scenarios, right? Like, the assumption is not that you're like constantly diving into the fray. Like, you're only playing Mothership when you're exploring like the worst day of your character's life in space. And then you then jump like 10 years into the future where they do 10 years of bum work or, you know, other stuff that doesn't run into aliens, and then you zoom back in when the aliens are back. But if you are playing one-shots, a thing they do with this collection of modules that I think is so elegant is they give you all 4 modules. They say, all right, here's what's going down, here's the full scenario. And then there's a sidebar in each one that says, if you're running this one as a one-shot, make this list of changes so that it's nice and easily contained and punchy as a one-shot, which is where I got the roll 1d5 stress instead of 1 stress, which addresses the problem we'd had with Call of Cthulhu, right? Where Call of Cthulhu's whole sanity system is probably really, really engaging if you have 12 sessions, 24 sessions, a year of play to engage with it. But in a one-shot, we were like, man, we didn't touch that damn thing. We moved 5 points out of 85, and that didn't feel like nothing. Whereas this game says, yeah, it goes to 20, which is great for the kind of lifespan of a character in this game. But, you know, playing a one-shot, just give them 1d5 every time they fail. You know, ration it up. Just go crazy with it.
No, and the fact that it even has such seamless conversion between one-shot play and long-form play is, like, genius.
Yeah.
I feel like no other TRPG that we've covered thus far has really given that level of distinction, you know?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's, like, honestly fine. Like, you know, if we're talking about something like Yeld, for the most part, like, wants to be pretty long-term play, wants you to engage in the world. It does have, like, the holidays and things, so it can be run as a one-shot, but, like, it knows what it favors. The fact that this basically seamlessly allows you to do either without really much, you know, distinction or favoritism towards one style of play is crazy.
I want to take a little time as well to go on my GM rant a bit and talk about the Warden's Operation Manual, the second of the 5 books that come included with this. This is the best DM guide I've ever read. Period.
Wow.
I'm flabbergasted. It's amazing. For my mind, a good GM's manual will give you an even balance of practical advice for running and devising the game, and then the tools to do that devising work. And this just nails that so perfectly. So, like, it'll introduce a concept to you, and then it'll give you 5 or 10 examples for that concept. Like page 42, campaign frames, right? You're going to be running a longer term series of adventures in Mothership. Characters in Mothership die. They die all the fucking time. You shouldn't expect your character to last super long. Your character has a high score that you increment at the end of every session, and your high score caps when the character dies, and you write them down on the roster of characters for the campaign along with their high score. Game tells you to expect an average high score of 4. 4 sessions of survival on average per character in their playtesting.
Huge.
Yeah. But then it gives you, like, it's like, okay, so if your characters individually are going to die off, and you're going to want a framework for longer term play that goes beyond just it's these 3 individual people, unless you want to play a nice short adventure. So it'll give you then 10 examples. Like, you're a group of space truckers. You're all dogs of war. You're all in a mercenary outfit together. You're a group of crash landers, a small group that landed on a planet, and then you're playing individuals from this exiled or marooned group. But then it also gives just a lot of really helpful advice on the practicalities of play. Like, there's a whole page on Warden etiquette with a sidebar for how should you differ your running of the game when running for strangers versus running for your personal friends. I've never seen a game get that level of specific with, like, folk advice, right? Whoa. Things that in any other game would be like, oh, you have to have been playing the game for a few years, and your cool friend who's been DMing longer than you needs to tap you on the back and say, oh, you know, in this situation, you should probably really do this, actually. Like, this game just tells you, it's like, oh, you're running for strangers? Well, change this, that, and the third, and then you've got kind of a better framework for how you're going to run the game. Insane.
That's crazy.
So much care, right?
So much
care. For, like, just support for how to play this game, how to play this game well, how to play this game with strangers, with friends, how to communicate with each other, how to communicate with the world. Like, I love this one detail you mentioned from the book where it's like you're describing the initial landing scene from the ship to the planet. And what was it? It's like, it must smell awful.
Yeah, the writing of the first scenario, really the writing of all of Another Bug Hunt, but really the Greta-based scenario, they include a bunch of green sidebars that aren't necessarily scenario information, but are like tutorials for a DM who is not only like, oh, this is your first time running Mothership, these are tutorials for like, oh, this is your first time running an RPG in your life. Like, initial sidebar, introducing characters. After they get out of cryosleep, go around the table, ask the players to introduce their characters, remind them that their bodies ache from cryosickness, and then have this other character, Moss, hand out stim packs. With other sidebars like pacing and tension, noticing things, when do we roll dice, how to handle locked doors, how to go to describe the location. Like, The formatting internally, very smooth, right? The thing that I love more than anything if we're formatting like a location-based adventure, nested bullet points. I'll read aloud here just a single example and then the sidebar to give a sense of how elegantly this is written. What's written as the literal reference text for Landing Zone. Landing Zone, a modular prefab base choked by tumorous vines, scarred by rain, appearing completely deserted. Bullet point. Heavy rains garble transmissions and obscure scanning. New bullet point. Thick mud makes it hard to run. Sub-bullet. Deep tread tracks lead directly to the airlock. Sub-bullet. A fork in the trail leads around back to the garage. New bullet point. In the distance ahead is Greta Base. Lights out. Unresponsive to hailing. But then off to the side, it says this in describing the location. As you scan the key, imagine you are there. Describe the area as best you can. Hit on the bolded words. Say something like this. Okay, your dropship touches down in the landing zone and you all get out into some thick mud as you see Greta Base up ahead. It's pouring rain. What do you want to do? Answer the player's questions to the best of your ability and use the key as your guide. Then, use your common sense and the player's imaginations to fill in the blanks. The key is listed in order of how obvious or notable things are. If players show interest in something, give them more information, such as what's after the colon or in a nested bullet point. For example, if the players ask, how thick is the mud, or are there tracks in the mud? You just say, looks like there's some deep tread tracks that go up to the base, and then a fork in the trail, but you're not sure where it goes. What the, like, that's such good advice. Like, it gives you not just an excellently formatted key, but like how to read it on a practical, rhetorical level and relay it in real time at the table. Like, if I was a never having run DM, I feel like I could have run this module like as well as I did myself. Like later on, a bullet point, a woman's head ripped at the neck, sub-bullet in green, meaning this is advice for the DM, and it's not have them roll a fear save here. It says, should this be a fear save? Question mark. Like, introducing the notion that you as the warden are not going to be given, like, on a platter every single time a fear save should happen. You should start tuning your intuition. When is it scary enough to roll the fear save? Scary enough to roll the sanity save? And it does that in a single bullet point just by having it be a question instead of a command. Like, I really can't get over the level of, like, intuitive elegance in efficient word count. This whole module is 8 pages long.
Wow.
That's crazy.
8 zine pages. Like, they're not even big pages.
That's wild.
Yeah.
The efficiency of reframing it into a question
Yes.
is really awesome because it feels like you have more agency as a warden, as a narrator, but also like it's immersive. Like, so much of this world is very immersive, and it does a great job of that by tapping into the senses. What does it smell like? What does it look like? What do you hear? What do you feel, right? Like, all of those kind of little details really pull you into the world of Mothership with so few words.
Yeah, efficient is definitely like the name of the game, because everything they do and like all of the descriptions for, you know, some of those GM guides that you just gave, but also for the player guides, are done in very normal, casual language. But everything they say, and specifically how they say it, the words they choose, just convey the ideas in their simplest, easiest to understand forms at all times. The level of consistency shows that they aren't just, you know, making the game for like the game's sake, but they are very intimately aware with the position of being a warden and the position of being a player. The level of expertise and familiarity with, you know, our positions as people who are audiences of this, you know, product is astounding. It's unlike anything else I think we've ever seen up to this point so far, and probably why it boomed so much, you know, and got so popular.
It's proper recognition for sure. This is maybe like, for its genre, for its position in the medium, like the most accessible game I've like ever read. Like the literal rules, the rules as far as dice rolls go, the rules as far as how the physical, literal mechanics of the game go, fit on the back of the player's guide. Everything else is elaboration, advice, and intuitive information to flesh that out and make running it easy, consistent, and accessible. But the game fits on a page.
That's crazy.
How do they do it?
I'm sure there are other things we want to touch on or tackle, but I do want to open up the floor in case there is anything. Does anyone have any criticisms or critiques? Because if I can be honest personally, I really struggled to find any. I remember coming out of our recording session being like, guys, I feel like we were on fire. Like, that was great. That was so seamless. And it's only in going back and having like reread some of the rules and having gone through to get ready for this recording that I realized, oh, a lot of the reason why I felt so on fire and everything felt so seamless is because Mothership made it so seamless.
I mean, yeah, no criticisms. It fucking rocks.
Yeah.
This game is amazing. I've read all of these zines cover to cover like twice or thrice for some of them, and like I fall more in love with them every time. This is like early contender for like game of the year for year 2 of Tiny Table for me personally, because like I'm kind of floored.
I literally was thinking the same thing as we were heading home from that first recording session. I was like, oh my god, is like one of the first games we're going into, you know, quote unquote, not really, but like kind of year 2, season 2 of Tiny Table, going to be like one of the first games we played, because it really just left that much of an impact. It's hard to describe and really put into words just what Mothership made me feel, aside from, you know, obviously terrified, which was its goal.
Yeah.
It's maybe, I guess, the vaguest even critique I could come up with is that it's specific, you know, like this is a sci-fi adventure. It's not like you could, but you know, I think that's a good thing. I think as the more TRPGs we've played, the more I'm starting to realize like games should be specific. They should be specific to their location, their purpose. Like space adventure has a certain weight to it, and it's not like you could design a universal system that you can just reskin. Something that I've been reading sort of online is the sort of concept of like hacking 5th edition, of like trying to bend this game that isn't very well made in the first place, sorry fans, to like you know, suit your modern adventure, suit your like non-fantasy adventure, to like kind of change it up and change the vibes, and it shatters. And I used to be in that mindset of like, maybe like there should be one universal system, and
If only there was like a generic universal role-playing system. That would be grand.
that would be grand, and then I could host any kind of adventure. But then you're just kind of, you're making a nothing game because it's not specific. Specificity is where such elegant design comes from. One of my favorite elements of Mothership is the trinket table and the patch table.
So good.
What an awesome way to immediately imbue you with a great idea of who you are. Just like a weird thing you have, like fuzzy handcuffs, lagomorph foot, casino playing cards, ukulele, and like some of the patches. I love the patches. Troubleshooter. If I'm running, keep up. Do your job, you know? Mama tried. Ooh, that one's so good.
I wind up on a ship with someone wearing the Mama Tried patch. I know I'm on a totally not doomed expedition.
So good.
Golly, what a great game. I think those are the only 2 D100 tables in the whole thing, and it's fitting because the only area you would need 100 responses instead of 10 or 12 or 20 is the 2 cute, unique things that you really don't want to repeat, that you will roll up every time your bozo beats it in space, and you need to roll up a new sucker to go die in a tin can.
Yeah.
There's a Chibi Cthulhu patch. Come on, how could you not love this game?
That's really cute.
I think my favorite one is there's one that just says "fuck off" in Russian.
Yeah, that
That's great. I'm kind of curious. Was there anything anyone had about their character that didn't like make it to the table in recording that they're like, oh man, I would have loved to show this off?
Mur lays it all out there.
Yeah.
It's the thing you gotta know about Mur. I was expecting the Carcinid to survive the initial encounter, and I was excited at the possibility of getting to run the real classic "it's in the vents" like setup, right? Where it's burst from the body, it's wounded, so it's like kind of more concerned, it needs to stalk, it needs to ambush, and then it's gonna get you. And I was excited to like pay off the fact that you were all smart enough to pick and reinforce a room with no vents like and kind of have that reward.
First thought, I was like, we're in space, I'm checking the... You always mentioned if a room had a vent or not, and I was like, well, that's obviously going to be important. And lest we forget the lessons we learned from Mogus. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But honestly, like, and that's kind of the thing is like, that's the beauty of RPGs is like, if this was a script, if this was a film, the Kark would have escaped, right? It would have gotten hurt, it would have gotten zapped with the thing, but then scuttled away, gone out the vent that's in the garage, so it has a place to scuttle away to, and then the final session would have been like, ooh, it's in the vents, ooh, something's gonna happen. But like, it didn't, because it's a role-playing game, and anything can
blew
occur.
that bitch up.
You blew that bitch to smithereens.
So lucky.
Yeah,
and
so lucky.
And
I thought it was dead.
It made us all feel like amazing that the characters did manage to destroy this like obviously really tough creature on their first attempt. And then there was still a lot of tension in the session. There was still the tension of the grenade. There was still the tension of the influenced passenger in the car. There was still the tension of finding the samples. Like, the game didn't end. It just went in a new direction. And that's something I love about RPGs is that it isn't like this pre-scripted perfect arc of like, oh, it's most dramatic if XYZ happens. It's like, no, what's most dramatic is whatever happens at the table. Everything else doesn't exist.
I think, as you mentioned prior, some things about the characters that didn't make it to the pod. When I was coming up with J10, I had this like really intense backstory of like them being, incarcerated laborer who's like the company sort of provided their new limbs, and so they're stuck paying off the company with the shitty company pay for their new limbs. I was really thinking about cycles of debt and like the company town and like carceral labor and like how J10 had to abandon their name and that they like all of their sort of crew, their type, their ilk. What was it?
Incarcerated labor contractor.
Ilk. Their ilk is that they all abandoned their free name because they no longer own their own name. They're just like a string of letters and numbers.
Boy, howdy, when I tell you gave me that J10 backstory and I was sitting on an alien that corrupts you to want to join a hive and work, and I was just sitting there going, ooh, if we were playing this full, like, all four scenarios module, we'd have some real thematic resonance by the end of it.
There
Doubly so because I think it was J10 that got right? That got possessed by the thing. So it's like, welcome to Indentured Servitude 2, Bug Boogaloo. Bugaloo. Damn it.
Bugaloo.
Bugaloo.
Yeah, Electric Bugaloo.
And then they also had like a dodgy pass, like, like making crank out of stim packs, and they were gonna have kind of like a stim pack like addiction a little bit.
Sweet.
I mean, and they got stim packed twice, like in the initial, and then they got it again. And they were like, I wanted to sort of give them a little more edge to that.
That's kind of fun.
I mean, their patch also says live free and die.
Wow.
Right?
That was a roll. That was a random roll.
That was a random roll, but it like encapsulates their entire situation where it's like their freedom does mean their certain death. In another sense. So it was all the more tragic when they got like caught by the bug.
Yeah.
What about Dr. T. Tanaka?
So the main idea that I had for Tanaka that didn't really get to come out was, I wanted to play kind of the schmarmy, kind of uptight, asshole-ish, like, I don't want to be here.
I'm better than you,
blah, blah, blah. Which, I think definitely came out at first, but as I continued to get more scared, I feel like I dropped that because I was just like, I'm so worried about us living that, like, I can't be a dick right now.
I will say, your human kindness, your Skylar, good boy, kind soul, like always peeks its head. You were like, I'm gonna play the jerk, and I'm like, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Yeah, I think the jerkiest thing I said is like I called Murr like a TI-82 or something, and that's about and that was about like as far as it really got before I'm like, gang, we need to solve this mystery, you know, and like
let's help each other and look for clues.
Let's not split up, gang. But what I was hoping to go for, you know, in the long term, if I could have held it together a bit more, was that he'd be an asshole, he'd kind of suck, no one would really like him, but then I wanted him to be like the first person to make like a self-sacrifice for the team, because like no matter how much he sucks, he's a doctor and he like cares about life and he cares about like saving people, to the point that like he'll always put his ego, his Anton ego aside, seeing as that was the inspiration, to like make sure that life persists if he can help it. But that moment never came up, and it also wouldn't have been played up for as much because I, as a very scared Skylar, was just like, I need to be as helpful as possible. Like, I need to be as locked in as I can right now. Which, again, I think is a testament to Mothership that, you know, it made me, Skylar the human, want to invest so much in our success that I like completely changed the trajectory of my character.
Immersion really is just the word of the day for this game, isn't it? Like, everything comes back to reinforcing and amplifying that sense of immersion. Like, we were all so invested, like you said, got to a point where we were just looking at a call sheet of bozos, most of whom are probably dead, and we're all like, what the fuck? Okay, who's in which group? I know that guy has a crush on this guy, so what are the implications there?
This
and
one's
like,
reading smut.
oh, just such a good game. Such a good game. I love Mothership so much.
I love
guys.
Mothership.
Yeah.
I really want to run this again.
Yeah.
Best possible thing I can
seriously.
say at the end of a tiny table thing.
Absolutely, and hopefully we do, because in some of the stuff that you talked about, which we won't get into here for spoilers, because you should play this yourself, definitely. But I remember hearing some of the stuff about like some of the later adventures, some of how like things work behind the scenes. I was like, damn, this is some good shit. I want to do it again.
Yeah, this is my call to action. If you listened to our playthrough of this first scenario of another bug hunt and you were at all compelled, if you've been the type of person who has put off the notion that you could be a game master, you have this sense of, oh, I love RPGs, but I could only ever be a player. I hope I've done my job over the course of the whole of this podcast to make it clear that that is not true and anybody can do this. But if there's ever a game that I can point to and say, buy this today and run this for your friends this weekend, it's Mothership, it's another bug hunt. Take them through the Greta-based scenario. The game gives you absolutely everything you need. And if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking, okay, sure, that's for someone out there, but still not for me. No, I'm talking to you. Go buy Mothership on their website right now and run this game for your friends. You can do it. And you can do it with Mothership.
And you can make it work.
And with that, we have another successful post-mortem. Thank you everyone for listening today, and get excited because in 2 weeks we will be starting and I guess continuing our sci-fi fall, and we'll be playing Reactors and Romance.
Wow.
Have a good night, everyone.
Hi, and thank you for listening to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then we'd really appreciate if you left us a review. If you really like what we do here and want to support us further, you can join us at patreon.com/tinytablepodcast. Our business email is also open for inquiries at tinytablebusiness@gmail.com, and all of our socials can be found in the episode description for any shenanigans you might want to follow. Till next time, see ya!